You know, that feeling when your heart feels like it's being squeezed in a vice grip, and every breath you take reminds you of what you're trying to let go. That deep, gnawing ache that makes you wonder if holding on might hurt less than letting go. Close your eyes for a moment. Think about something you're holding on to right now. Maybe it's a relationship that's no longer serving you, a dream that's keeping you from seeing new possibilities, or perhaps it's an old wound, a story you've been telling yourself for so long that it's become part of your identity. Feel that weight. Really feel it. That heaviness in your chest. That's not just emotion, that's energy. That's life force being trapped, desperately trying to flow but meeting resistance at every turn. You see, letting go hurts so badly because we've been taught all the wrong lessons about what it means to let go. From our earliest days, we're programmed to believe that holding on equals strength. That persistence always pays off. That if we just try hard enough, want it badly enough, or love deeply enough, we can make anything work. But what if I told you that the universe has a different plan? What if the very thing causing you pain right now is not the letting go itself, but the resistance to what naturally wants to happen? Think about the seasons. Nature doesn't struggle with letting go. When autumn comes, trees don't desperately cling to their leaves. They don't negotiate with winter, trying to strike a bargain for just a few more weeks of green. They understand something we've forgotten, that letting go is not an act of defeat, but an act of wisdom, grace, and profound trust in the cycles of life. I remember sitting with a young man in 2014, tears streaming down his face as he talked about his failed business venture. For 3 years, he had poured everything into it. His savings, his time, his identity. I can't let it go, he told me. If I do, it means I'm a failure. It means these 3 years were wasted. But here's what I told him, and what I want to tell you, those years weren't wasted. They were invested in your growth, in your learning, in becoming who you needed to become. You see, we often confuse letting go with giving up, but they're not the same thing at all. Giving up comes from a place of defeat, of resignation. Letting go comes from a place of wisdom, of understanding that sometimes the greatest act of self-love is to release what's no longer meant for us. Think about how you learned to swim. In those first moments, what was the hardest part? It wasn't the moving of your arms or legs. It was trusting that the water would hold you. The moment you stopped fighting, stopped thrashing, and simply allowed yourself to float, that's when you discovered a profound truth. Sometimes our greatest strength lies not in our grip, but in our ability to release the pain you feel when letting go. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're human. It's a sign that you have loved deeply, dreamed boldly, and cared intensely. The depth of your pain is directly proportional to the significance of what you're releasing. Nobody tells you about letting go. It's not a single moment of release. It's not like dropping a hot coal where the relief is instant. It's more like watching the tide go out. A gradual, rhythmic process of advance and retreat. Some days you'll feel strong and certain. Other days, the urge to grasp, to hold on, to return to the familiar pain will feel overwhelming. Every skill you've ever mastered, every piece of knowledge you've gained started with letting go. You had to let go of crawling to walk, let go of baby talk to speak clearly, let go of training wheels to ride a bicycle. Every step forward in your life has required a letting go of some kind. So why does this particular letting go feel so impossible? Because we've attached our identity to what we're holding on to. We've convinced ourselves that this relationship, this job, this belief, this pain is who we are. But you are not your attachments. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are the awareness that observes all these things, the consciousness that contains them. I want you to imagine for a moment that your life is like a house. Every experience, every relationship, every belief is like a piece of furniture. Some pieces serve you well, make your life more comfortable, more beautiful, but others, they're just taking up space, blocking the flow of energy, preventing new pieces from finding their place. Letting go is simply making space. It's clearing the clutter so that life can bring you what you truly need, not just what you've become accustomed to. The truth is, most of us don't fear letting go as much as we fear what comes after. We fear the empty space, the silence, the unknown. But what if that space is exactly what you need? What if that void is not empty at all, but full of possibilities you couldn't see before because your hands and your heart were too full? In the depths of your pain, in those moments when letting go feels impossible, remember this. The universe has never once required you to carry more than you were meant to carry. Every release, every letting go is making space for something that aligns more deeply with who you are becoming. Would you keep wearing shoes that are 2 sizes too small just because they once fit perfectly? Would you insist on staying in first grade because that's where you first learned to read? Of course, yet so often we do exactly that with our emotions, our relationships, our beliefs. We hold on to things long after we've outgrown them simply because letting go feels too frightening. Let me share something profound with you about the nature of pain and attachment. Have you ever noticed how we tend to hold on to things more tightly when we're afraid? Our muscles tense, our breathing becomes shallow, and our mind races with all the what-ifs. This is no accident. This is your body's wisdom speaking to you, showing you exactly where you're stuck. The very act of holding on creates more pain than the letting go itself. It's like trying to grab onto running water. The tighter you squeeze, the less you actually hold. The more desperately you try to control, the more life slips through your fingers. I once witnessed a mother struggling to let her teenage son make his own decisions. She'd come to me in 2013, exhausted from trying to orchestrate every aspect of his life. If I let go, she said, something terrible might happen. But what she couldn't see was that her grip was pushing him away faster than any external force ever could. When she finally began to loosen her hold, not only did their relationship heal, but she discovered a strength in herself she never knew existed. You see, every time we resist letting go, we're actually resisting life itself. Life is change. Life is flow. Life is constant transformation. When we hold on too tightly to a person, a belief, a dream, we're essentially saying to the universe, I know better than you. I want this moment, this situation, this relationship to stay exactly as it is. How many of your greatest blessings came from situations you tried desperately to control? How many of your most profound revelations emerged from moments of surrender rather than struggle? The pain of letting go is so intense because we've convinced ourselves that holding on is keeping us safe. Safe from change, safe from uncertainty, safe from the unknown. But what if safety isn't found in holding on? What if true safety lies in trusting your ability to handle whatever comes next? Think about how many times you've survived what you thought would break you. Remember those moments when you were certain you couldn't go on, couldn't bear the pain, couldn't face another day? Yet here you are. You've already proven to yourself that you're stronger than you think. You've already demonstrated your resilience countless times. The irony is that the things we hold on to most tightly are often the very things blocking our blessings. It's like standing in front of a closed door, pushing with all your might while life is trying to open it from the other side. The moment you step back, the moment you let go, is the moment the door can finally swing open. Every major transition in nature involves a period of apparent chaos before a new order emerges. When a caterpillar enters its chrysalis, it doesn't just sprout wings. First, it completely dissolves. Everything at once becomes a soup of potential before reforming into something entirely new. This is what letting go feels like. It feels like dissolution because it is dissolution. You're not just releasing something external, you're allowing parts of your old self to fall away. The pain you feel, it's not just about what you're letting go of. It's about who you think you'll be without it. We attach our identities so strongly to our pain, our struggles, our stories, that the thought of releasing them feels like losing ourselves. But you're not your pain, you're not your past, you're not the story you've been telling yourself. But if the pain you're feeling isn't a warning to hold on tighter, but an invitation to trust more deeply, what if this discomfort isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong, but evidence that you're finally doing something right? In my years of working with people, I've noticed something remarkable. Those who learn to let go with grace often discover that what they were holding on to wasn't nearly as essential as they thought. Like a child who finally releases their security blanket. They realize that their comfort and safety came from within all along. The truth about letting go is that it's a practice, not a single act. It's something we must choose again and again, moment by moment. Some days it will feel impossible. Some days it will feel like the most natural thing in the world. Both experiences are valid. Both are part of the journey. Think of letting go like learning to play a musical instrument. At first, your fingers feel clumsy, unsure, but notes come out awkward and hesitant. But with practice, with patience, with persistence, something shifts. Your hands begin to know where to go. The music begins to flow through you rather than from you. This is what masters of letting go understand. It's not about forcing yourself to be okay with loss. It's about developing a new relationship with change itself. It's about recognizing that everything in life is temporary and that this temporariness is what makes everything precious. The pain you feel when letting go is also a reminder of your capacity to love deeply, to care profoundly, to engage fully with life. If letting go didn't hurt, it would mean these experiences hadn't touched you, hadn't changed you, hadn't mattered. The pain is proof of your humanity, your vulnerability, your courage to have cared so much in the first place. Remember this, just you can't heal a wound while constantly reopening it. You cannot move forward while continuously reaching back. Every moment spent clutching what needs to be released is a moment stolen from embracing what's waiting to enter your life. The most challenging part of letting go isn't in the release itself. It's in facing who we become in the empty space that follows. That space can feel like a void, an abyss of uncertainty. But what if we've been looking at this space all wrong? What if this emptiness isn't empty at all, but rather pregnant with possibility? I've observed something fascinating about human nature. We often cling most desperately to the very things that are draining our life force. Like a drowning person clutching a heavy weight, we hold on to toxic relationships, limiting beliefs, outdated dreams, and wonder why we can't stay afloat. We grasp at the familiar pain because at least it's familiar. We know its contours, its rhythms, its patterns, the unknown. That's what truly terrifies us. In 2012, I worked with a successful executive who had built his entire identity around his career. His office walls were lined with awards, his calendar packed with meetings, his phone constantly buzzing with notifications. He came to me not because he wanted to let go, but because his body was forcing him to. Panic attacks, insomnia, chronic stress. These were the messengers trying to tell him what his conscious mind refused to acknowledge, that his soul was crying. You see, our bodies know the truth before our minds are ready to accept it. That unexplained anxiety, that persistent sadness, those mysterious aches and pains, they're often the physical manifestation of the things we need to release but are afraid to face. Everything in nature has a rhythm of holding on and letting go. Your lungs hold air for a moment, then release it. Your heart contracts, then relaxes. Even your thoughts, if you observe them closely, arise and pass away naturally when you don't cling to them. It's only when we resist this natural rhythm that suffering begins. But here's what nobody tells you about the art of letting go. It's not about getting rid of something. It's about creating space, space for new possibilities, space for growth, space for the life that's trying to emerge through you. When you hold on to something beyond its time, you're not just hurting yourself. You're blocking the flow of life itself. Think about the times in your life when growth was inevitable, the transition from childhood to adolescence, the move from school to career, the shift from single life to partnership. Each of these transitions required you to let go of who you were to become who you needed to be. And yes, each one probably hurt in its own way. But would you really want to have remained frozen in any of those earlier stages? The pain of letting go is amplified by our resistance to change, but also by our misunderstanding of what letting go actually means. We think it means we're giving up, failing, or admitting defeat. But true letting go is none of these things. It's an act of profound self-love and wisdom. It's recognizing that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in holding on, but in opening our hands and trusting the process. I want you to try something with me right now. Clench your fist as tight as you can. Hold it. Feel the tension in your fingers, your palm moving up into your wrist and arm. Now slowly begin to open your hand. Notice the sensation as each finger releases its grip. Feel the energy beginning to flow again. This simple physical act mirrors the emotional process of letting go. The tighter we hold, the more tension we create. The more we release, the more energy can flow. The pain you're feeling, it's not just about loss, it's about transformation. Every letting go is really a death of sorts, a death of an old way of being, an old identity, an old story. And like any death, it deserves to be honored. It deserves to be grieved. But it also deserves to be recognized for what it truly is. A doorway to rebirth. Think about a time when you were forced to let go of something. Perhaps a job, a relationship, a dream, and later discovered that this letting go created space for something even better to enter your life. At the time, the pain might have felt unbearable. You might have resisted with every fiber of your being. But looking back now, can you see how that release was actually a gift? It's the paradox of letting go. What feels like loss in the moment often reveals itself as liberation in retrospect. What seems like an ending often turns out to be a beginning. What appears to be a wound becomes a portal to greater. The pain you feel when letting go is also a sign of your capacity for deep connection, for meaningful engagement with life. If you didn't care so deeply, if you hadn't invested so much of yourself, letting go wouldn't hurt at all. So in a way, the pain is a testament to your ability to love, to commit, holding on to what needs to be released. Doesn't preserve the past. It steals from your future. Every moment spent clutching what needs to be released is a moment you could be opening to what life is trying to bring you. Consider how many times you've already let go in your life. Each night when you go to sleep, you let go of the day. Each breath is an exercise in letting go. Each step forward requires releasing your grip on where you've been. You're already a master at letting go in so many ways. You just haven't recognized it yet. The key to transforming your relationship with letting go lies in understanding this fundamental truth. Nothing that is truly yours can be lost. What belongs to your life will stay or return. What leaves is making space for what genuinely belongs in your next chapter. There's a profound shift that happens when we stop seeing letting go as something that's happening to us and start recognizing it as something that's happening for us. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen through positive thinking alone. It happens through a deep understanding of life's natural rhythms and our place within them. Let me share something that might change your entire perspective on letting go. Have you ever noticed how we tend to define ourselves by what we're holding on to? Our pain becomes our identity. Our struggles become our story. Our wounds become our worth. But what if who you are isn't found in what you're gripping so tightly, but in the awareness that's watching yourself hold on? I remember a conversation from 2010 with a woman who had spent decades holding on to resentment toward her father. If I let this go, she said, who will I be? This is the heart of why letting go hurts so much. We fear the empty space where our pain used to live. We fear the silence where our story used to play. We fear the freedom that comes with release. It doesn't come from figuring everything out. It doesn't come from having all the answers. Freedom comes from being willing to stand in the unknown, to face the empty space with curiosity rather than fear. It comes from trusting that whatever is meant for you will stay, and whatever leaves is clearing the way for something better. Think about the last time you felt truly free. Maybe it was floating in water, dancing without caring who was watching, or laughing until tears ran down your face. In those moments, were you holding on to anything? Were you trying to control the outcome? Or were you simply allowing yourself to be fully present in the experience? The pain of letting go is often intensified by our tendency to live in two places at once, desperately holding on to the past while anxiously reaching for the future. But life can only be lived in the present moment, this moment, right here, right now. And in this moment, you have a choice to hold on or to trust, to resist or to flow, to contract or to expand. Consider how nature handles transitions. A snake doesn't think twice about shedding its skin when it's time. A butterfly doesn't try to climb back into its chrysalis. A seed doesn't attempt to retain its shell while trying to become a flower. Yet we humans, with all our consciousness and complexity, often resist our own natural evolution. The truth is, every time you let go, you create space for something new to emerge. But here's the catch. You have to be willing to sit in the emptiness, to resist the urge to immediately fill the void, to trust that this space is not empty at all, but rather fertile ground for new possibilities. I've noticed that those who struggle most with letting go often share a common belief, that their grip on something is what gives it value or meaning. But think about this. Does holding on to a sunset make it more beautiful? Does clutching a handful of sand keep it from slipping through your fingers? Does refusing to accept the end of autumn prevent winter from coming? The pain you feel when letting go is real, and it deserves to be honored. But pain is not your enemy. It's a messenger. It's telling you something important about what you value, what you fear, what you need to learn. The question is not how to avoid the pain, but how to listen to what it's trying to teach you. In my years of observing human nature, I've noticed that our greatest breakthroughs often come not from acquiring something new, but from releasing something old. It's like cleaning a window. The light was always there, we just couldn't see it through all the accumulated dust and grime of our attachments. There's a powerful truth about letting go. It's not something you do once and it's done. It's a practice, a dance, a continuous choosing. Some days you'll feel strong and certain. Other days you'll want to grasp at what both experiences are part of the journey. Both are perfectly human. Think about how many times in your life you've thought, I can't live without this or I'll never get over that. Yet here you are, having survived countless endings, having moved through numerous transitions. Your track record for getting through difficult times is 100 so far. You've already proven your resilience more times than you can. The pain of letting go is also a reflection of your capacity for deep feeling, for meaningful connection, for passionate engagement with life. If you didn't care so deeply, letting go wouldn't hurt at all. So in a way, the pain is a testament to your humanity, your vulnerability, your courage to have loved and lost rather than never loved at all. Holding on to what needs to be released doesn't preserve the past. It imprisons the present. Every moment spent clutching what needs to be released is a moment stolen from embracing what's trying to enter your life. Everything you have in your life right now once existed only as a possibility. Every relationship, every achievement, every joy, all of it began in the space created by letting go of something else. The job you have now required letting go of the job you had before. The relationships you treasure required letting go of your fear of vulnerability. As we move toward our closing moments together, I want you to truly understand something profound. The pain you're experiencing right now is not a punishment. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's evidence that you're growing, evolving, and making space for what's next in your life. Think about the most beautiful gardens you've ever seen. They don't just happen. They require regular pruning, the removal of dead leaves, the clearing of space for new growth. Your life is no different. Sometimes what feels like loss is actually life pruning away what no longer serves your highest good. In 2008, I met a musician who had lost his ability to play guitar due to an accident. His identity had been completely wrapped up in being a guitarist. The pain of letting go of that identity was almost unbearable for him. But in letting go of who he thought he had to be, he discovered who he truly was. He began composing music digitally, teaching others, and eventually found that his influence on the music world grew far beyond what he could have imagined when he was just playing guitar. You see, sometimes what we're holding on to isn't just a thing, a person, or a situation. It's a version of ourselves that we've outgrown. Like a hermit crab that must leave its shell to grow, we too must be willing to feel vulnerable and exposed as we move into a larger space of being. The pain of letting go is intensified by our tendency to focus on what we're losing rather than what we're making space for. It's like standing in a dark room, clutching a candle, afraid to let it go, even though dawn is breaking outside. The light you're holding on to is nothing compared to the light that's trying to reach you. Every letting go is also beginning. Every ending creates space for something new. Every loss carries within it the seeds of possibility. The question is not whether you can avoid the pain of letting go. You can't. The question is whether you'll allow that pain to be a wall or a door. Think about water for a moment. When it meets an obstacle, it doesn't stop flowing. It doesn't argue with the rock in its path. It simply finds another way around. That's what letting go with grace looks like. It's not about forcing yourself to be okay with loss. It's about learning to flow with life rather than against it. The truth is, most of what causes us pain in letting go is not the releasing itself. It's our resistance to what is already happening. It's our attempt to hold on to what life is clearly showing us is time to release. It's like trying to hold on to your breath. The very act of resisting creates more discomfort than the natural rhythm of letting go. I want you to try something with me right now. Imagine that everything you're holding on to, every worry, every regret, every person, every situation that you're struggling to release, imagine that they're all leaves floating on a river. You're not pushing them away. You're not trying to forget them. You're simply allowing them to flow at their own pace. Some might linger longer than others. That's okay. The river knows where they need to go. You see, the art of letting go isn't about forcing yourself to be okay with loss. It's about developing a new relationship with change itself. It's about understanding that everything in life is temporary and that this temporariness is what makes everything precious. Remember this? Just as a tree doesn't mourn the leaves it sheds in autumn, you don't need to interpret every letting go as a loss. Those leaves have served their purpose. They've contributed to the tree's growth. And in letting them go, the tree doesn't become less. It prepares itself for its next phase of growth. The pain you feel in letting go is also a reminder of your capacity to love deeply, to care profoundly, to engage fully with life. If letting go didn't hurt, it would mean these experiences hadn't touched you, hadn't changed you, hadn't mattered. The pain is proof of your humanity, your vulnerability, your courage to have cared so much in the first place. As we come to a close, I want to leave you with this final truth. Letting go is not something that happens to you. It's something that happens for you. It's life's way of clearing the path for what's next. It's the universe's way of making space for what truly belongs in your life. Your hands must be empty to receive what's coming. Your heart must be open to welcome what's next. Your mind must be clear to envision new possibilities. And yes, this emptying, this opening, this clearing, but this pain is not your enemy. It's the birth pangs of your next level of growth. So when the pain of letting go feels overwhelming, remember this moment. Remember that you're not alone in this journey. Remember that every person who has ever achieved anything meaningful has had to let go of something to get there. Remember that your capacity to release with grace is equal to your capacity to receive what's meant for you. And perhaps most importantly, remember this. The very fact that you can feel such deep pain means you can also feel equally deep joy. The same heart that breaks open in sorrow can expand with unimaginable happiness. The same life that feels empty and lost can overflow with new possibilities. Your task is not to eliminate the pain of letting go. Your task is to trust that what's leaving is making space for what's coming. To trust that life knows what it's doing. To trust that you are being guided toward what truly belongs in your life, even if the path feels uncertain right now. You are not just surviving this letting go. You are being transformed by it. And in this transformation lies the seed of something beautiful, something meaningful, something that could only come into being through the courage to release what no longer serves your highest. Let this be the moment you give yourself permission to begin letting go. Not because you figured everything out, but because you trust that life is figuring it out for you. Let this be the moment you choose to flow with life rather than against it. Let this be the moment you realize that letting go isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a new chapter that's waiting to be written.